Hi, I believe it's Youthsville Painting. My name is Dr. Marissa Ferrara, and I teach students at the College of Charleston all things digital marketing and social media. And one of the things I love to do is help small business owners, especially people new to the area and people starting off on their adventure to build what they need to build. And I saw your post the other day on one of the community pages about like trying to figure out how to build, how to get your clients, et cetera, et cetera. And somebody was like, just throw up a website and like just do a couple things and start a business profile. And while I had a minute, I just want to walk you through what I think you should do, or just kind of give you an overview of how Google works and how to connect all the dots to really make sure you're setting yourself up for success, because that's fundamentally what we want. My husband has a small business, and I still remember when he first started, and this was before I did digital marketing and helped out small businesses in the area. It was so frustrating because he just wanted to be successful, and you can spend a lot of time, money, energy going down the wrong rabbit holes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through how Google works. I'm going to pull up some of your competitors. I'm going to show you some analyses so that when you do go to build a business profile, you do it the right way the first time around. When you do go to build out a website, you success leaves clues, and I'm going to show you the back, kind of behind the scenes of what's happening. So what happens is somebody like me, I go in as a consumer. So you want to think about the idea that, and I can do it right here, like Google's job is to keep me as a consumer happy. So it wants me to come back and to continue to use that search engine. And with Bing and chat, AI, like all of these things happening, the market is competitive. And so what happens is I go in and I search for interior, and I might misspell it, interior painting, right? Like interior painting near me, and test this out. Test out Mount Pleasant, right? And because I believe that's where you wanted to build your business. Test out Charleston. Just change it around. Do exterior painting, Mount Pleasant, exterior painting near me, and just see how this changes. And so this is the first space that you see when you think about Google. So Google is scrolling through all of the websites. As soon as they put this into the search engine, just picture Google is scrolling through every available nook and cranny on the internet to try to put in front of my eyes what it thinks I'm going to be most happy with. So just keep that in mind. And so it's really important. I talked to a whole bunch of people, and they're like, I think it's important to first and foremost, and I think you did a smart job. You're like, where do I spend my time? So how do you want to get found? What do you want to get found for, and where, and for what? And so like plenty of people I talk to in Mount Pleasant, their bread and butter is the mailer, or putting a sign on the side of the road, right? I think that you can do a tremendous job there. And then as well as like being in those community pages, putting out word of mouth and the mom to mom pages and places like that. So I say first and foremost, think about how you want to get found, because that's first and foremost. But here's how digital marketing works. So this first area is the pay to play space. So that's your Google Ads. And I can certainly talk to you about should you or shouldn't you, how to spend your money here. I worked with an interior designer, for instance, who Google was charging them every time somebody put something in a shopping cart for them. Not if they bought it, but and so it's really important to set those ads up really well. And you can waste a lot of money in this space if you're not careful. So if you have questions about this, please let me know. I work with small business owners all the time, and my college students. It's really, actually, I love to teach my students, but it's really fun to work with people who have a different vested interest, and that's my small business owners. Now, this space, I agree. I noticed a comment said, get yourself a business profile. I agree. You need one. As long as you have a formalized LLC, you should have one. The thing about this space, so if you care about this space, there are ingredients to doing well in this space. And I'm happy to walk you through them, because what like the ingredients to get into this space are different than the ingredients to get into, this is called the organic search section. So if you care about this space, and I think you should, it's one of those things. It's like, it's not as if I need to know where you are on the map, right? But like, because it's not like a hair salon where I need to know if you're on the way to my work or something like that. Painters, I'm not going to you for the service, but still you can see people's reviews. You can see, the images that they put up. And so to do on this space, let me just click on one of these. There's a couple different ingredients. So you want 35 or more photos. You want to, before you upload those, you want to geotag them. You want to save them with keywords in mind. So don't just upload random image 456. Before you upload it, you want to resave it for interior painting, Mount Pleasant. And I'm going to show you some of those keywords. So just remember, just get in the best practice of create a folder, rename the images, geotag them if you can, and then upload them into all of your spaces. Because right now Google knows that it's a photo and it knows that this company has 41 photos, but the better option is to geotag them and put them in with those keywords in mind so that Google knows that it's not just a random photo. And then this space. So this is your overview space. And this is really important because you have this space to write in a description of your business. Don't just write, if they give you 500 words, take all 500 words. Write about Charleston, Mount Pleasant, exterior paint, interior paint, like use the entire space. So it's like if my student were to turn in a 1-paragraph paper and somebody else is turning in a 2-page paper, the more room you take up in that business profile, because those are free, you don't have to pay for them ongoingly. They're paying sometimes to get verified, and so let me know if you need help with that. But like, just think about it like you are wanting to take up all the space in this page. This is another space. So like there's a Q&A section here. You want to fill this up. You want to create questions. And one of the ways to understand those questions is to pull in the people also ask questions. How much does interior paint cost per room? Just here's a question that somebody asked and answer that, because Google's will love you because you're addressing questions that people have in this area. So just, you can respond. You don't have to give them a dead answer, but like, oh, if you call us, we will be over, within 72 hours, or we'll right away, and we'll give you the best practice estimate in Charleston, right? Like, just kind of keep reminding everything you put in the Q&A area. You want to make sure you mention your location, you're mentioning all of the services you provide, the area that you provide them in. Like, that's the goal in this space. And like this, it looks like they used up all the words, but make sure you can add your profiles, and then you can add updates. Like once a week, add an update, like seasonal colors, and just, if you have a deal, like whatever it is, but you get to add stuff, you get to add services. So, and you could add products. And if you don't know how to use ChatGPT, but you can Google, like put in ChatGPT, like my exterior paint company needs to come up with Google Business Profile products. And so like generate some ideas, and chat will give you some ideas of how to build out services and products for your space. So that is how this works. And then the big part of getting in this space is registering your company in a bunch of online directories. So you think about it, back in the day, when I was little, we got like a Yellow Pages mailed and put onto our front porch. Now there's digital versions of that. So there's the yellowpages.com, the Chamber of Commerce, Yelp. Like there's all of these online directories. And people pay me to like build out their profile. I don't charge an arm and a leg like some people do, but people pay me to do this for them and keep it up going, and then go into those online directories and register their business. You don't want to do a bunch at one time. You want to slowly tease them out, like in a natural way. But that is something, and that is basically because anybody can build a business profile. And so Google feels like the people who are most serious about it are the people who flesh out, like do a lot of information on their business profile and add to it regularly, as well as register their company in a bunch of online directories. So that is how you rank in this section. It's not about how close you are to my house. It's more about what are you doing to make this profile more comprehensive. Now, from here on out, like this area is the organic section, and this is a really important thing to understand. So what I use is if you have like-minded others, so like I worked with a landscaper, for instance, who had an okay website, but they're like, I keep getting calls for lawn mowing services, and I don't want to do that. I want to be doing hardscaping. And so I help people problem solve the services that they want to really be known for. So I think it's important to think like hardscaping is a more lucrative area, or like building outdoor kitchens is more lucrative than lawn mowing services. And so that's the kind of stuff, like it's important to think about what services do you provide and what is the return on your investment for those services, mixed in with how saturated the market is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up. So what I did is I grabbed two. This is, you don't have a website yet, so I can't look at it, but this was Wade Paint Co. So when I searched for exterior paint, this one came up. And then when I searched for interior paint, Mount Pleasant, this one came up as high up on the list. And so what you see here is Ahrefs allows me, this is the website, I pay for it. It allows me to compare and contrast different websites and how well they're performing. And so we talk about like search engine optimization. So a lot of people will build just a very cheap, easy website. They'll put it together themselves. There is nothing wrong with that when you think about what your business model might be. But a lot of people don't understand that in order to, if you want Google to find your website, then you need to do certain things with your website. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of information about that. And so you have to ask yourself, is your strategy just to have a pretty looking done yourself website that you can do? Or is your goal to actually have Google find your website to drive traffic? So a lot of times, and I can usually have a conversation with you, I'd love to find out what your goals are, your strategy is, because if it's this, like this ingredient list and price point is less, like building out your profile as opposed to building out your website. So let's talk about this. So this website, for instance, Drexel Hill Painting, and you can go to it. It scored high when I looked. Yeah. So when I did interior painting, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, they came up number 2 on the organic search. And I can search for this one as well if you want. But it lets me know how the market is in terms of website performance in that industry. So they're getting 96 people clicking on their website a month. That's step number 1. And so what happens is when somebody searches, just picture Google is like Google it has a highlighter in their hand essentially, and it is scrolling through every word of somebody's website trying to figure out what to highlight. So of all of the words on this website, Google is highlighting 22 phrases. And so this is when we talk about on-page SEO. Now let me show you this other website. So Wade's Co Painting, that was like, I think the exterior painting services website. And so they had, when I looked at theirs, so they're getting 27 people clicking on their website a month. They have 89 keywords. And so what I do when I help somebody build out a website is sometimes people just pay me to do the in-depth keyword research and then help them figure out what words to put on the pages. And then they go out and do it themselves. Whereas sometimes people pay me to just build out the site with those keyword strategy in mind. So let me just talk about what that looks like. And this is something you can figure out yourself, but it's kind of, I think it's fun to explain it. So this phrase, so Charleston Painters, for instance, they have it identified on their website. So, and you have to think about it, like a lot of times, actually the landscaper is a good example. He had a website, but he only had Charleston on there twice. He's like, well, of course my company's in Charleston. I said, well, you have to tell Google that that's where you are. So if you, on your website, if you have Charleston on there twice, it doesn't know if you care about that phrase or not. So you really have to structure the headlines, hyperlinks. You repeat certain phrases so that Google knows that those are words that you care about. Bold them, like that's the kind of stuff. So think about like when you're reading a textbook, the boxes and there's ways to like let Google know or any search engine know that these are the important ideas on our website of all of the words. So Charleston Painters, for instance, and this is cool to see, 100 people search for that specific phrase a month. This is the keyword difficulty. And this is really important. And to me, this is like the best thing that I could ever teach you is that 100 people search for this, but it's a more competitive phrase than this phrase. House painters, Charleston, South Carolina, 100 people search for that phrase a month. So the same volume of search, but it's an easier phrase to search to come up as. So 0 is low competition, 100 is high competition. So I usually say, unless you're going to pay for SEO help and blog writing and all of these other things, you want to find phrases that are kind of that 15, I usually say like 10 and under in terms of competition KD. So when I look at this space, this tells me a couple things. House painting, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, 50 people search for that phrase a month with a 5-level difficulty. Bubbling paint on wall, we don't really care about that because it's not a localized search topic. So we're trying to find the search topics that are painting Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. 40 people search for it with a 15. That's not very exciting, to me at least. Commercial painter in Charleston, nobody searches for that phrase and it's got an 8-level difficulty. So you start to see like, this is what I really do and how I help people decide what words to put on a page. I just want to show you. So Charleston painters, they have it on their page. They are getting 8 people of the 100 clicking on their site a month because they're positioned about number 6. So you can try it. Just go into Google, search for Charleston painters. They come up probably position number 6 in the search results. And it's the Wade Paint Co. website. And so that's an important thing. So I think that this is actually very important because I'm going to show you something else. So I also did the Drexel Hill painting company. And let me just show you the variation here. So when I looked for painter, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, 40 people search for that with a 1-level difficulty. So what this tells me is that these phrases, while the search volume might not be as big, the keyword difficulty is less. So if I were to build your website, we might still put some of those more difficult words on your pages, but we would really structure your pages so that we're having, a drop down, one of the search bar with a new page called House Painting Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. We would like that. That's the importance of it. It helps me figure out what words to put on the page. Painting contractors, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. So 50 people search for with a 2-level difficulty. So I go through all of the different services that you provide and try to find the right words to build a website out with. So if your strategy at all is to have people find you through Google, you do want to take note of some of these keywords and make sure that you're putting those on the page. Now, if you just need it to be a pretty website that you hand out to people and people click on it and it makes sense for them, then that's a different strategy. So hopefully that part was helpful. And so the other thing I want to show you, and so this is when we talk about on-page SEO. So you can Google like, what is on-page SEO? That's what this is. It's what are the words on the page and how much traffic does that generate? And I've worked with several people, again, like that the landscaper had a lot of keywords on their page, but none of it was localized. So it was all about like how to weed properly. And a dentist was like getting like 100 people coming to their website a month for like how to handle weak teeth. But that person asking the question could have been somebody in Seattle. It had nothing to do with a buyer in Charleston. And so that's where working with somebody like me is really helpful to figure out what the market value is on the services you provide. Now this is your off-page SEO. So this is the number of other websites that mention your website. And so this is why I recommend people have a YouTube channel, have that Facebook page that you go out and register in the Chamber of Commerce. So basically it's anywhere that your website is mentioned. So if you like donate to the Wando High School, for instance, and you say, that's great, I will donate, but I need my website mentioned somewhere on a live blog post about people who donate to the Wando marching band or whatever that is. And that's what this list is. And so when people work with me, I go out and I look at your competitors. I see where they're getting their referrals from. Essentially, that's what this is. And I go out and I get those referring domains for them as well. Hopefully this helps when you think, I think a lot of times people are like, how does somebody get on the map section? How do they, I'm number 9 on the list. How do I get up to number 3? And so as you start to build out your business, I definitely think the Google Business Profile information I gave you is helpful because that is something that's easy to do. It's manageable for any business owner to do it themselves. If you have questions though, you want to outsource some of it to me or to anybody, I'm happy to give you what I think is the market value because sometimes people get like overcharged charged ridiculously. If the website is at all important to you to build out, I think it's a worthwhile investment in the painting community if you're going to be here long term, or maybe you just throw one up real cheap, just a do-it-yourself website, just to have it. And then eventually you work with somebody like me that's like, okay, let's structure the first page. I try to build out at least a 5-page website, if not 10 pages, and then a blog. I just like a really good strategy. I do not charge an arm and a leg like some people do, just because I'm a freelancer and I love to do it. But it breaks my heart when people hire somebody that just makes a really nice name card website that doesn't do anything for them. So I would say if you are going to go with a website person, make sure that you insist on seeing the keyword structure, make sure that they are, they have access to something like Ahrefs that helps them make sense of the data that I see when I look at this, because I would structure your website based on what I see here. And then some, like I go in and I look at all of the competitors and I try to find all of the keywords that are going to make sense for your company to succeed when it comes to Google. Thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful. Have a good one.